Great things come in threes. Stooges, blind mice, musketeers, and dare I say it, engine cylinders? Now, despite some of the inherent disadvantages of a three-cylinder engine, they've managed to be a premier mainstay in the motorcycling industry for a long time now. From historic and lethal two-stroke three-cylinders from the 70s to modern Triumphs and Yamahas, three-cylinder engines have proved a novel and interesting riding experience for the last 50 years, and your Papa Yam is a personal big fan of them. But is the charm and allure of a three-cylinder engine worth it when you consider that two cylinders are torquier and four cylinders have more top end? Is the three-cylinder really the perfect compromise, or is it the master of none? Let's get into it. So let's talk about two-cylinder engines first. From small displacement beginner bikes to top-of-the-line chart-topping naked bikes, two-cylinder engines are all the rage right now. Whether they're in a parallel twin or a V-twin, two-cylinder engines have a lot of advantages. With displacement spread across two cylinders, the usual longer stroke of a two-cylinder engine provides great torque and low-end response, making it an ideal platform for street riding. Many parallel twins nowadays are using a 270-degree firing order to give it a little bit more character and to help balance the engine out. This creates smooth, linear torque, reduced engine vibration, and a characterful exhaust sound. Twins are also really cheap to produce, especially parallel twins. You can stack them up in any kinds of motorcycle that are going to be great for street duty, off-road riding, and much more. Even V-twins have a great packaging advantage, making them nice and narrow. And that's why we've seen that they've become the go-to for many manufacturers nowadays. Pretty much everybody's making a parallel twin. And four-cylinder sport bikes, on the other hand, have been the flagship and the go-to for going fast on motorcycles. We made a whole four-cylinder engine video talking about inline fours versus V4s. That's been a very popular one here on the channel. Go and check that out if you haven't seen it yet. You used to find four cylinders in lots of standard motorcycles back in the 90s and 2000s, but nowadays parallel twins have really taken over, and you only see four-cylinder engines in the more sporty models. Think of your ZX4RRs, Yamaha R6s, Yamaha R1s, CB1000Rs, and everything in between that's typically reserved for the more sporty go-fast side of motorcycling. And of course, our beloved Hayabusa is a four-cylinder engine. Four cylinders are great at making a ton of top-end power, and that's really what you want for a high-revving sport bike. With the displacement spread across four cylinders, four-cylinder engines usually have a shorter stroke, leading to higher revs. These engines usually can redline from 14,000 all the way to 17,000 RPM on some of the super spicy models. But they are more expensive to produce. There's more valves, more moving parts, more cylinders, a bigger crank, all kinds of stuff. And let's be real, it's kind of an inconvenient power dynamic for the street to have to wind the thing out all the time. And while four-cylinder engines are popular for racing, they've really waned in popularity in the last 10 to 15 years or so. Where parallel twins fire in either 180, 360, or 270-degree rotations, and four-cylinder engines fire every 180 degrees, R1's cross-plane crank notwithstanding, a three-cylinder usually fires every 240-degree rotations of the crankshaft. Now, this firing order helps keep a smooth, linear power delivery. Three-cylinder engines have broad power characteristics that share some of the dynamics of a two-cylinder and a four-cylinder engine, and in my opinion, offer the best of both worlds with a super linear torque curve and horsepower line as well. The exhaust note of a three-cylinder is also super characterful and unique in my opinion, and because you can only find them really in motorcycling, there's a few cars out there with three cylinders, but none of them rev as high, I think it sounds awesome. As many of you know, the Daytona 675 is one of my personal all-time favorite motorcycles, and I think that thing towards the top end of the register just sounds absolutely mint. If you want to hear three cylinders going absolutely ham, you can tune into Moto 2, where that category uses a controlled version of the 765 engine from Triumph. So all those motorcycles out there ripping it up, revving to 15,000, 16,000 RPM, are all using three-cylinder engines. But three cylinders are, of course, more complicated to manufacture than a parallel twin, which is why we've seen parallel twins just stamped onto everything across a bunch of of different manufacturers. The fact that 3-cylinder engines are still relatively uncommon lends itself a lot to the unique character and flavor of the engines. Only a couple manufacturers are even making 3-cylinder engines, with Triumph being the most notable, as it's kind of their thing. They have 3-cylinder engines across many different models. So let's talk a little bit specifically about Triumph, because they are kind of the standard bearers of the 3-cylinder engine. The Triumph Trident and the BSA Rocket 3 were both 3-cylinder motors made back in the 60s and 70s. These British roadsters used a 740cc air-cooled triple, and with that old school vibe and the carburetors, they really do have a very unique flavor. They were aimed to compete with the Honda CB750 and other UJM machines. And now the Trident and Rocket 3 are names you might recognize because they are still in production today, albeit in very different configurations. The Trident being a naked roadster, standard sport type of motorcycle with, as the Trident name implies, 3 cylinders, and the Rocket 3 is the gargantuan 2500cc 3-cylinder muscle cruiser that makes like 160 horsepower and 160 foot-pounds of torque. Still one of my favorite bikes I've ever ridden. The giggle factor, quite high. But arguably, Triumph's most notable 3-cylinder engine can be found in the Street Triple and the Daytona models from 2006 to 2017. And as mentioned, I personally believe they have a perfect balance of horsepower and linear torque delivery. The bikes are compact and agile, and they're revered for their iconic nature and their beautiful, nimble handling. Because you have one fewer cylinder on the entire bank of the engine, the bike is small, svelte, compact, and super fun and flickable. And that 675 platform was updated to the 765 in 2018 and has since been refined to make about 128 horsepower, which is just so nice. And the Trident and the Daytona 660 in the lineup today provide interesting 3-cylinder options to compete against all of the parallel twin offerings that most other manufacturers are making. We have tons of video reviews on the Daytona and the Trident right here on the channel, so if you're interested in those bikes, go and check those out. And of course, we now have CF Moto's kind of rip-off Daytona that they've been making. It remains to be seen if that thing's any good, but it does have a 3-cylinder engine, and we did have to note it here. Time is running out to win the MT09 SP giveaway bike we have on YamiNoob.co. September 13th is the very last day you have to get entered, so don't miss your chance to win. I highly recommend you become a member so you get access to all the benefits of our membership program, and you'll also get the ability to stack up your entries and apply them to our giveaway bikes. If you become a member now, you can get entered for the MT09 SP giveaway and then our next giveaway bike starting just a few days later. And trust me, it's a brand new bike that you're not going to want to miss because so many of you have been mentioning it in the comments. So go and check out the Yamaha MT09 SP giveaway on YamiNoob.co, and don't miss your chance to get entered to win. September 13th is the very last day to get entered. Now, one of the other most iconic 3-cylinder engines might just be Yamaha's MT09. It's a super popular motorcycle that debuted in 2014 and has been off to the races ever since. It sits between the FZ07 parallel twin kind of intermediate middleweight bike and the MT10, the R1 derivative hyper naked motorcycle, so it really is the sweet spot of power, agile handling, and accessibility, both in terms of price and overall stature. It makes 117 horsepower and 69 perfect foot-pounds of torque. It's super torquey, lively, fun, and really nice to use. And as you guys have seen with our giveaway MT09 SP, the SP variant provides Öhlins shock out back and a KYB fully adjustable fork up front. And with cruise control and so many more features out of that 890cc triple, it's really one of the best 3-cylinders ever made in my opinion. The XSR 900 is of course sold as well for the Instagram vanity boys who want something that is just that little bit more beautiful, shall we say. If you're not into the cyber cyclops looks of the MT09, maybe you gotta go for the XSR. But the MT09 is not Yamaha's first foray into triples. The XS 750 and 850 were produced in the late 70s and early 80s. And Motorcycle News actually called it the machine of the year in 1977. And it sat between the XS 650 and the XS 1100 in terms of displacement, so it's not too dissimilar from the MT lineup nowadays. Time really is a flat circle, isn't it? Now we also have to mention MV Agusta, which has loads of history making 3-cylinder engines. They first produced them in 1960s and they're still making them to this day, and Spoiler alert, one of my other secret favorite motorcycles is a 3-cylinder sport bike in the form of the MV Agusta F3. MV Agusta's first 500cc triple was designed for Grand Prix racing in 1965, and it made an impressive 80 horsepower, which is a lot for 1965. And the 3-cylinder was always meant to be the same thing we've talked about, balancing the weight of a twin and the power of a 4-cylinder. And MV Agusta's 3-cylinder engine became legendary. Raced by Giacomo Agostini, which that name might sound familiar to you if you're a MotoGP fan, to 7 consecutive world titles from 1966 all the way to 1972. MV Agusta revived the 3-cylinder engine with the F3675 in the early 2010s. Maybe a little bit derivative of the Triumph motor and naming convention, but I digress. The F3675 raced in World Supersport and did make it to several podiums, but it was not nearly as competitive as some of the other bikes on the grid, despite being one of the prettiest bikes on the grid. It was replaced with the development of the F3800, which is one of my all-time favorite MV Agusta platforms. I got the chance to ride the Brutale version and the F3800 RC, and they're both amazing. On track, the MV Agusta F3800 RC is just like the 3-cylinder sport bike I've always wanted in my dreams. It's so perfect. So despite the added cost and complexity, 3-cylinder engines have really managed to make a name for themselves in modern motorcycling. Whether it's from Yamaha, Triumph, or MV Agusta, it seems that they're staying committed to making the 3-cylinder engine all the way up until today. I think the unique, novel, and interesting riding experience that a 3-cylinder engine provides really is what gives it so many die-hard fans, again, myself included. So let me know what you think about triple cylinder engines down below. Do you love that whistle from the Daytona? Do you really enjoy the grunty torque of an MT-09? Or do you love the refinement of an MV Agusta? If there's any notable 3-cylinder engines that I missed, let me know down below in the comments as well. And thank you so much for checking out today's video. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notifications bell for daily motorcycle content brought to you by Yami Noob and the team over here. We'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later. Unfortunately for you, this video is now concluded, but fortunately for you, you have caught this video just in time to get entered to win this MT-09 SP. Hit the link on YamiNoob.co in the description box down below, become a member. That's the best way to support the show and get entered to win these fantastic giveaway motorcycles. But if you don't think that's cool enough, you'll get access to our Discord server as well too. It's my way of saying thank you to you guys, and I truly do appreciate the support. But click this video right over here and you can keep watching Yami Noob. And why wouldn't you want to keep watching Yami Noob? Why? What's stopping you? Huh? Huh? Do I need to come over there?